I won 8 million overnight. The first thing I did was rush to the hospital to pay for my son's surgery and treatment. That was when my phone rang. Ian, a co-worker from the company, called. Something urgent came up. You need to get back here right this instant. My wife Mara took the bank card from my hand and said with a gentle and understanding voice, "You and give me the PIN. I'll take care of our son's hospital bills. Go. Work is important. Don't worry about us." In my previous life, I didn't hesitate one bit. I trusted her completely and hurried back to the office. My son never made it into surgery. Instead, the police came for me. It turned out that Mara and Ian had conspired together to frame me, pinning the crime of embezzling company funds on me. The very money Ian had stolen. With no money for treatment, my son died in the hospital. My parents, shattered by grief, suffered fatal heart attacks one after the other. And I, rotting in prison, ended my life in despair. After my death, my soul drifted to the holiday village of Maldives, where Mara was on vacation. I heard her laughing as she spoke to Ian. That idiot won a fortune and wasted it on that useless, sick kid. He dragged me into a miserable life. Laughing even harder, she added, "Now their whole family is dead, and we get to enjoy wealth for the rest of our lives. Consider it compensation from that idiot." Haha. Then I opened my eyes. I was back in the hospital corridor. At the exact moment, my wife reached out and took the bank card from me. This time I still told her the PIN. "Honey, let me handle the medical bills. Go, work is important. Don't worry about us." My wife, Mara Miller, held the bank card with $8 million inside tightly. She might have sounded gentle and understanding, but her eyes were gleaming with triumph and excitement. In my previous life, I had trusted her completely. I did not expect her to take the money needed to save our son, Jaden Lowe, to conspire with my colleague, Ian Staffer, and frame me for embezzling company funds. I was then sentenced to 10 years in jail. And Jaden died in the hospital, receiving no treatment. Even my parents died of heart attacks, one after the other. Their bodies were left on the streets with no one to help. When I was given another chance at life, hatred was raging in me. I wanted to tear that vicious woman into pieces with my bare hands. However, that would only land me in jail once more. It was not worth it. I was going to use a different way to make Mara and Ian pay the price. I gripped her wrist tightly and said with a strong hint, "Thank you for dealing with the hospital. This is the money needed to save Jaden. Don't wire it to the wrong account." After all, in the previous life, Mara did not wire the money to the hospital's bank account, but instead to Ian's other account. Mara's eyes had a pang of uneasiness in them. She said shiftily, "Don't worry. I won't be that careless," I replied with a smile. "All right then." I turned around and my smile instantly vanished. Exiting the hospital, I sneered and called the police. "Hi. I would like to report a financial crime. 2 minutes ago I was scammed out of $8 million. Please help me find the people who took my money. "What? $8 million? The police officer became serious and immediately opened a case. When they heard the amount of money, they added, "The money has just been transferred. You're lucky you called the police in time. We'll surely help you get your money back. If you have any clues, please come to us again," I said anxiously. "All right. Thank you. That money is needed for my son's surgery. Please help me." After hanging up, I smiled. I was not worried that they would not be able to get to the bottom of it, because the money would soon be returned to my account. That was what Mara and Ian did to frame me in the previous life. However, in my new life, I was going to let them have a taste of their own medicine. My phone buzzed violently in my pocket. It was Ian. I deliberately did not answer. I did not need to. I knew it was Ian trying to get me to rush back to the office. Waiting for me to step into the trap. I hailed a taxi. But instead of heading to the office, I headed to the lottery center. "Hello, I'm the one who won $8 million this morning. I need an official notarized certificate confirming my identity as the winner right now. In my previous life, I was so desperate to pay for my son's surgery that I had skipped the notarization completely. That mistake cost me everything. After I was framed, I thought about getting my winning notarized. Mara and Ian had already bought off the staff at the lottery center. They changed the personal details of the winner to a different person. So I could not prove that I had won the $8 million legally. Once I had been notarized as the legal winner of the lottery. Even got the staff to print me the receipt of the transaction. Details of the money to my account. I was not going to give Mara or Ian any opportunities to set me up in this life. My phone rang once more, still from Ian. With a swipe, I answered the call. Jack, why haven't you returned to the office yet? Don't you know something urgent has happened? This has to do with you. Mr. Madison has asked you to return right away. Ian sounded anxious. Yet he would not explain what on earth was going on. Classic manipulation. I knew he was trying to confuse me and make me feel worried, so that when I arrived at the office, I would be caught off guard by his plans. I said calmly, sure. I'll be there. I arrived at the office at my own pace. Ian looked at me with disappointment and furrowed brows, saying, Jack, how could you do such a thing? You've really lost your mind. I replied, stop speaking in riddles. Say what you mean. Ian tried to suppress the smugness in his eyes and raised his voice on purpose. Jack, you can stop the act. The company has found out about you secretly embezzling millions of their money. At that moment, the colleagues, who were all working, suddenly looked up at me in shock. Jack has always looked so honest and serious at work. How bold of him. The company had found out someone was embezzling funds last week. Who would have thought that it was Jack? You really can't judge a book by its cover. He looks honest, yet he was secretly such a greedy man. Why does he need so much money? Is he having multiple lovers besides his wife? It's hard to say. I heard that his son is sick and needs to undergo surgery. Maybe he's doing this for his son. No matter what, embezzling company funds is illegal. A person with wrong morals like him will just end up in prison. Just watch. Everyone looked at me with condescension, while murmuring among themselves. Ian smiled smugly. I remained calm, saying I didn't embezzle the funds. It wasn't me. Richard Madison, the general manager, bellowed as he threw a stack of documents at me. Jack, there's cold, hard proof. You can stop lying. I trusted you. I was even going to recommend you for promotion last week. This is how you repay the company. I looked at them page by page. They were financial audit reports, records of abnormal fund transfers from the company's internal system. Every operation was logged under my name and employee ID. Then I saw the last page. The most recent transaction was 10 minutes ago. $8 million had been transferred from the company's financial system into a bank account registered under my name. I took my phone out and logged into my bank application. Sure enough, I noticed a deposit of $8 million into my account 10 minutes prior. Richard barked. Jack, what do you have to say for yourself? My colleagues looked at me with even more condescension. The evidence is right in front of him. See how he gets out of this. Just call the police to arrest him. We worked so hard for the company just to earn a living. What right does he get to take the company's money? Anger spread quickly throughout the entire office. Everyone was an employee doing more or less the same work. Of course, none of them were happy to see a colleague cheat the system and get rich overnight. Ian watched it all unfold, his eyes gleaming with triumphant satisfaction. I looked at Ian, but said to Richard, Mr. Madison, don't you think this is all a little too convenient? I arrived at the office 10 minutes ago, and $8 million just suddenly appeared in my account. I'm guessing that it was Ian who gave you all this evidence. Ian looked furious. So? Oh, what if I did? Although we're colleagues, I can't just sit and let you hurt the company like this. Which was why I reported you to Mr. Madison. I snickered. I'm not the only one who can log into the financial system. Besides, the last time I logged in, you deliberately came over to have a look. You must have seen my password. How do I know you didn't do this just to frame me? Richard also thought things were too much of a coincidence. They looked into the embezzled company funds the week before. It had nothing to do with me. Yet all evidence suddenly pointed to me. Richard looked at Ian with furrowed brows. A pang of panic flashed across Ian's face. But he immediately regained his composure. Mr. Madison, don't listen to Jack. The only reason I suspected him, besides the records, is because I also have a witness. Yes, I'm the witness. The entire office was suddenly in an uproar. Looking at Mara, standing at the entrance of the office in bewilderment. Isn't she Jack's wife? Gosh. If his wife says so, it must really be true. Ian said smugly. Jack. Even your wife reported you. What do you have to say about that? I was not surprised by Mara's appearance. In my previous life, Mara appeared right in the nick of time. Just when the entire office was suspecting me of crimes I did not commit. To give the final fatal blow. Mara was a great actor. Her eyes instantly reddened as she exclaimed. Jack, I really didn't want to come forward. But I feel terrible, I sneered. Mara. If you really had a heart, you'd be at the hospital with our son. Not here with Ian trying to frame me. Mara had a gleam of shiftness in her eyes. She immediately calmed down and yelled. I'm doing this for our son. I don't want you to continue making this mistake. Until the point of no return. Mara continued with conviction. If our son has a father who is a criminal, he will be bullied at school. He won't be able to live with his head held high. Your mistake will destroy our son's future. Jack, it's not too late to admit to your crimes. You'll just end up in prison. This is just the punishment you deserve for committing such crimes. Ian chimed in. Mora's right. Jack. You should turn yourself in. If you cooperate, maybe your sentence will be lighter. Yeah, your crimes have been exposed. Doesn't help being stubborn. You should just confess. You took something that wasn't supposed to be yours. You should prepare to pay the price. Jack. Turn yourself in. In that moment, everyone in the room had already decided my guilt. The chorus of asking me to turn myself in echoed endlessly around me. Mora and Ian could barely contain their excitement and smugness. I did not panic at all. Instead, I calmly said, Mara. You're lying. If I had stolen the company funds, our son would have gotten the surgery a long time ago. I won $8 million today. And handed the card to you so that you could pay for his surgery. Then you turn around and accuse me of stealing from the company. How could you do this to Jaden, who's still lying in the hospital? At the mention of our son, Mara did not budge one bit. She said righteously, I'm not lying. What would I gain from lying? Yes, Jaden needs the money to save his life. But you can't just embezzle funds. If you do, he'll only grow up being mocked and looked down upon. I looked at Mara and enunciated, Mara. Jaden is our only son. Are you really risking his life just so you could frame me? Mara's gaze turned icy, but she replied, Jack. I'm doing this for our son. Stop being so stubborn and just turn yourself in. I'll find another solution for Jaden's surgery. We'll wait for you to come out of prison. Mara's performance was so flawless that the entire office began to side with her. At that moment Richard said impatiently, Call the police. I looked at my phone and smiled. There's no need for that. They're already here. As if right on cue, a few police officers entered the office. Mara and Ian delightedly pointed at me and said, Officers. That's Jack Lowe. Arrest him. The officers looked at me and nodded before asking, Which one of you is Ian Stafford? I am Ian Stafford, Ian announced, stepping forward with a righteous puff of his chest, adjusting his tie. And I am fully prepared to give my statement regarding Mr. Lowe's embezzlement. The lead officer, a tall man with a buzz cut and eyes like cold flint, stepped past me and stopped directly in front of Ian. Ian Stafford? Yes, officer. As I was saying, I saw You have the right to remain silent, the officer interrupted, his voice booming through the silent office. In one fluid motion, he unhooked the handcuffs from his belt. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. The click of the handcuffs locking around Ian's wrist sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. Ian froze, his smug smile twitching into a grimace of confusion. Wait. What? You're making a mistake. He's the criminal. He jerked his head violently toward me. Jack Lowe is the one who stole $8 million. We are not here about company funds, Mr. Staffer, the officer said, tightening his grip on Ian's arm. We are here acting on a report filed by Mr. Jack Lowe regarding the theft of his personal property, specifically, a lottery jackpot of $8 million, which was illegally wired to a private offshore account registered in your name 18 minutes ago. The color drained from Mara's face so fast she looked like a corpse standing upright. Richard Madison, the general manager, dropped the stack of audit papers he was holding. Lottery jackpot, he stammered. I stepped forward, pulling the folded, notarized certificate from my inside jacket pocket. I smoothed it out on Mr. Madison's desk. The gold seal of the State Lottery Commission caught the fluorescent lights. Mr. Madison, I said calmly, my voice carrying to every stunned colleague in the room. I didn't embezzle a dime. I won the grand prize this morning. I have the receipt, the tax forms, and the notarized proof of funds. The $8 million that appeared in my bank account 10 minutes ago. That was the payout. I turned slowly to look at Mara. She was trembling, her hands clutching her purse, her knuckles white. However, I continued, I gave my bank card to my wife, trusting her to pay for our dying son's heart surgery. Instead, according to the bank alert I received, the money didn't go to the hospital. It went to a shell account in the Cayman Islands. An account that, I suspect, belongs to Ian. The office erupted in whispers. The look of condescension that my colleagues had worn only moments ago shattered, replaced by shock and disgust directed at the pair. You set us up. Ian screamed, struggling against the officer. You gave her the pin. You told her to do it. I told her to pay for my son's life-saving treatment, I said cold as ice. I didn't tell her to wire my fortune to her lover. The word lover hung in the air. Mara let out a strangled sob. Jack, no. It's a misunderstanding. I pressed the wrong button. I was going to move it to a savings account for us. For us? I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Mara, the account is in Ian's name. And the police have already traced the IP address of the transfer. It was done from your phone. I looked at the police officer. Officer, I believe my wife is an accessory to this theft. And considering my son is currently in critical condition and they delayed his surgery to steal this money, I want to press charges to the fullest extent of the law. Jack. I'm your wife. Mara shrieked as a second officer approached her. She reached out, trying to grab my sleeve, but I took a step back. Think of Jaden. If I go to jail, who will take care of him? I will, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous growl. Because unlike you, I actually want him to live. As the police dragged a kicking Ian and a weeping Mara out of the office, I turned to Mr. Madison. The general manager looked pale, realizing he had almost fired, and prosecuted, an innocent man who was now a multimillionaire. Jack, Madison stammered, sweating. Clearly, there has been a massive error in judgment here. The audit logs Ian showed me were forged, I finished for him. Ian had access to my terminal. If you dig deeper into the IT logs, you'll see the timestamps of the supposed embezzlement align perfectly with times I was away from my desk, and times Ian was in the office alone. You might want to check the actual company accounts, sir. I have a feeling the money Ian accused me of stealing is actually missing, and he tried to use my lottery win to cover his own tracks. Madison's eyes widened. He immediately grabbed his phone and began shouting orders to the finance department. I didn't stay to watch the fallout. I had a son to save. I arrived at the hospital 20 minutes later, flanked by a police escort I had requested to expedite the freezing of Ian's assets. Because I had the notarized lottery proof, the hospital administration was more than willing to accept a promissory note while the banking mess was sorted out. Mr. Lowe, the head surgeon said, meeting me in the lobby. We received the authorization. We're prepping Jaden now. But we lost valuable time. Just save him, I pleaded, grabbing the doctor's hand. Do whatever it takes. Money is no object. I sat in the waiting room for 6 hours. The red, in surgery, light was the only thing keeping me anchored to reality. In my previous life, this was where I sat in handcuffs, weeping as they told me Jaden was gone. Not this time. When the light finally turned off and the surgeon emerged, looking exhausted but smiling, I collapsed into my chair in relief. The surgery was successful, he said. He's going to be just fine. Tears streamed down my face, real tears, not of grief, but of liberation. I called my parents immediately. Dad? I said when he answered, my voice shaking. Jaden is okay. He's going to live. And I'm coming to get you and Mom. You're not staying in that old apartment anymore. Everything is going to change. The legal process was swift and brutal, fueled by the expensive lawyers I hired the next day. It turned out my hunch was correct. Ian hadn't just tried to steal my $8 million, he had been siphoning money from the company for 2 years. He had embezzled nearly $300,000 of company funds. When the audit was announced, he panicked. He planned to frame me for his crimes, and when he found out about my lottery win from Mara, he saw a golden ticket, steal my money to flee the country and leave me to rot in prison for his embezzlement. Mara's defense was pathetic. She claimed Ian coerced her, that she was a victim of his manipulation. But I had my lawyer present the text messages recovered from her phone. The idiot gave me the pin. As soon as the transfer hits your account, book the tickets to the Maldives. I can't wait to be rid of him and that burden of a child. That text message, read aloud in the courtroom, sealed her fate. I sat in the front row during the sentencing, wearing a tailored Italian suit, looking the picture of health and success. My parents sat beside me, holding hands. Jaden was at home with a private nurse, recovering rapidly. When the judge asked if I had a victim impact statement, I stood up. I walked to the podium and looked at the two of them in their orange jumpsuits. Ian looked hollow, his arrogance stripped away by months in county jail. Mara looked aged, her hair stringy, her eyes red from crying. She looked at me with a pleading expression, silently mouthing, I love you. I leaned into the microphone. Your Honor, I began. Trust is the currency of a marriage. I gave my wife the means to save our child's life, and she treated it as a severance package for our family. Because of their greed, my son almost died. They didn't just try to steal my money, they tried to steal my life, my freedom, and my future. They wanted me to die in a cell so they could drink champagne on a beach. I paused, locking eyes with Ian. I don't want their apologies. I want them to have the time to think about the life they could have had if they were decent human beings. The judge nodded solemnly. Ian Stafford was sentenced to 15 years for grand larceny, embezzlement, and fraud. Mara Miller was sentenced to 12 years for conspiracy, grand larceny, and child endangerment. As the bailiffs hauled them away, Mara screamed my name. Jack. Please. I'm sorry. Don't let me go there. I didn't flinch. I turned my back and walked out of the courtroom, into the bright afternoon sun. 3 years later. The Maldives is truly beautiful this time of year. The water was a crystalline turquoise, lapping gently against the stilts of the private water villa I had rented for the month. I sat on the deck, a glass of vintage scotch in my hand, watching the sunset bleed purple and orange across the horizon. Dad. Watch this. I looked down. Jaden, now a healthy, vibrant 10-year-old, did a cannonball into the private pool, splashing water everywhere. My parents were sitting on the lounge chairs nearby, laughing, looking 10 years younger than they were. My father's heart condition was managed by the best specialists in the country, and my mother had discovered a love for painting in her retirement. I took a sip of the scotch. It burned pleasantly. In my previous life, my soul had drifted here, watching Mara and Ian laugh at my misery. I remembered the rage, the helplessness. Now, the script was flipped. I picked up my tablet from the table. I had a notification from my lawyer. It was a forwarded letter from the state penitentiary. Jack, the letter read, in scribbled, desperate handwriting. It's Mara. Please. I can't take it in here anymore. I heard you started a charitable foundation for children with heart defects. I know you're a good man. Please, help with my appeal. I'll sign away all rights to Jaden. I just want to go home. I dream about you every night. I stared at the letter for a moment. In the past, her gentle voice would have swayed me. But I remembered the coldness in her eyes when she took that bank card. I remembered the previous life, where my parents died of grief and I died of despair. I typed a brief reply to my lawyer, do not forward any further correspondence from her. Ensure the restraining order is active upon her release in 9 years. I deleted the email. Dad, come in the water. Jaden yelled, surfacing with a grin. I'm coming, buddy, I called back. I set the glass down. I had $8 million, well, significantly more now, thanks to some prudent investments, but looking at my son swimming and my parents smiling, I knew the money wasn't the real prize. The prize was the second chance. And this time, I hadn't wasted a second of it. I dove into the water, washing away the last lingering shadow of the past. The water was warm, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I was truly free.